Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, let's watch. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. This is the Psychology in Seattle YouTube channel. And as I always say, everything that I say in reaction to this show is completely speculative, based on very little information. So keep that in mind. Let's watch.
Soul, like, she hit where it hurts, and it's like the things that she said, someone had to say it.
Sounds like you got some words of wisdom.
So I didn't show it because I was waiting to hear what Shaeeda had to say away from the mom. The mom, Bilal's mom, talked with Shaeeda, and it was a good talk. I don't think the mom necessarily knows what's going on, the way she was coming. Basically what the mom was saying was that, and it was a good point, the mom was saying that some people, they need to be proven that they can trust someone before they can trust someone. And Bilal is that kind of person because he's been hurt before. And she also said there are other people who trust people and then they will rescind that trust if it's broken. So there are people that hold on to the trust and slowly give it out. And there are people who give it out, within reason, and then will only take it back when they're hurt. And I think the mom was saying Shaeeda is one sort of person and Bilal is another, and they're both okay. Both are fine. I thought, okay, that seemed to be a good argument, and I found myself being a little convinced by that. I don't know why Bilal can't say things along those lines, but anyway. But then the mom started to go into submissiveness and gender roles and power and control and privilege. Not those words precisely, but it sounded like she was saying that Shaeeda needed to be a good submissive woman and stop asking for things or stop disobeying him or something. I mean, I'm speaking a little strongly, but it was kind of along those lines. So Shaeeda at the time was agreeing with it, but I thought, well, is she just doing that because the mom is there and she's being polite? Because I think Shaeeda is a very polite person. But now we're hearing that she is saying to the Bilal, well, I actually kind of agree with that, and it was a good talk, which, I don't know. It's hard for me to figure out what's going on. If I talked with Shaeeda, would she say, well, yeah, I know what's going on. Bilal has issues, but I'm okay with it. You take the good with the bad. And I was being a little stubborn at times, and I don't mind about the prenup. It's not that big of a deal, and I've just been really having a hard time adjusting to coming to the States or whatever. But it sure doesn't look that way, right? It sure looks like she loses everything. She loses her job, her country, her people, her dream of having her own children, and her own autonomy, her own future. And he gains everything because that's just what he wants. She doesn't have control over the way, I didn't show this scene, but she's cooking and he's micromanaging her. It just seems like she loses everything, maybe even her mind, right? Because she came into this with, I think, a wise resistance, a wise, like, what's going on here? How come? So I've been worrying that eventually she would have her autonomy and her differentiation eroded over time because she doesn't have a lot of contact with her support system. But I didn't really see that until now. Maybe she's just getting it from all angles, like you're a bad woman for disobeying, and now she believes it.
You know, like what you said today is like you have to know when to be submissive. You have to know when to express yourself. I want to have a relationship where I know when to submit to you and be submissive rather than like everything you say, I don't have to fire back. And I think it's...
who knows what's really happening in this relationship? We understand that we see 1% of it, but if what we're seeing is at least somewhat representative of the relationship, this really gives me the willies. That she's using the word submissive. She's saying, you're right, I was being stubborn, I was being oppositional, not I was standing up for myself, like kind of. I don't know about y'all, well I know some of y'all are like, she is already submissive. And now she's going to be becoming more submissive. You know, she's already been asked to swallow her pride and be blamed for everything and be lied to, and having someone never admit that they're wrong or take responsibility. Now you're like, I'm sorry for that little bit that I was speaking up, that is gone.
It's vice versa. Everything I say, you don't have to fire back. I feel like I've been so strong-minded, and sometimes I blame that on, being single for so long, not really having to compromise or share anything.
Yeah, but, I'm a silly woman who's been single, and I don't know what she's saying exactly, of course, but there's so many markers here of, well, she needs, because in the old times and around the world, and to some extent in the United States, a woman never has autonomy. She is born into a family with less rights than her brothers. She is not going to have a career. She doesn't get to date who she wants to. She does what her father and maybe even her older brothers tell her to do. And then as soon as possible, she is married off, and she is now the servant of another family. Think of Jenny and Summit. She is now the servant of mother-in-law. She never, and of course her husband and her kids, she is the bottom of the bottom. You have husband, mother-in-law, uncles, children, mother is below that. And the way she's talking, it just has that feel to it. And it's upsetting. I mean, it'd be one thing if I thought that this was somehow her stepping into a caring relationship, because I will say that there are relationships that exist within this mindset of the man as the head of the household, which just like, ugh. But okay, but that's me. I'm from Seattle, and that's just like not right. But okay. So, but the majority of the world, as far as I can tell, follows some version of that principle. So who am I to say, as an ugly American, colonializing everyone with my quality ideas? But I have seen people make it work where on paper, the man is the head of the household and has control over everything legally, but they work together. The parents, the couple, they actually do listen to each other. And even though at the end of the day, he could just put his foot down and say, this is what we're going to do, because they have a good relationship, they talk about things, and it never comes to that. It never comes to him pulling out his rank card, if you will. So sometimes it can be okay, but this relationship to date has not been of that style, right?
So now I'm agreeing for a prenup, because I feel like we have been back and forth, and this has caused so much friction in our relationship. So I'm willing to submit. I think before I was feeling, figuratively speaking, I was feeling so naked. Like I needed something, what I'm used trying to look for is security.
So, I've been talking about obsessive compulsive personality disorder regarding this couple since the beginning, and those cabinets, since I have a mild version of it, you see the right handle is a little lower, which I don't think that means it was installed lower. I think it means that the door is actually a little, you just have to get up there with the hinges and adjust to align the doors. So I'll just point that out. Similar to when Shaeeda had the pool cue upside down. Ugh.
Thinking about what I look for in a potential spouse, I really necessarily wouldn't say like submit, because, we submit to God. But I would say just, it was just refreshing that she came to a point that said, like, I'm willing to be open. I think that's how you have a beautiful marriage, be able to listen and communicate effectively.
So I'm hearing a little promise in that he's saying, I don't know if I like the word submit. So at least part of him knows that that's probably not good. Submit. I will submit, meaning I will do whatever you want me to do. And it just makes me wonder what is going on with her. Because if you just look at it from a certain angle, she meets this American guy in her home country, Trinidad, and they date for 7 days. Maybe they online dated for a while before that, talked on the phone or something. So maybe there was a bit of romance before they met up. or did they just meet? Anyway, 7 days in person. They get married, so they must have been dating before that. Yeah, she's in her late 30s, right? Yeah, she's 37, and so she gives up everything, her career, her family, her community, to come to the States, not because she needs money or anything. She was a successful individual and puts up with a lot. And then when push comes to shove, when it looks like maybe the wedding might be canceled if she doesn't sign this prenup, she gives in completely and says, I will do whatever it takes to make this work. It just makes it seem like she's desperate to make this work, even though I think she knows that there's something wrong here.
100% see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
All I'm trying to do is just also let you see where I'm coming from. And by no means, it's not a way to say, like, I won't take care of you. No, like, I mean, I'm proving that. I continue.
Another sexist trope to keep women down. Look what I've given you. I've given you all of this material things while making you feel like a second-class citizen. Like, I think most people would say, I'll take the shack over the, I don't know. I was hoping he would say, I will also submit to you. I don't like the word submit, but, well, how could he possibly say anything other than what's in line with what he's saying? Because there has been nothing on camera to represent anything other than he's super happy now. He had his ex-wife go after her, his mom go after her. Everyone's telling her she's the problem, and now she's like, okay, I guess I'm the problem.
It seems like I'm taking the advice Bilal's mother gave me when she was like, sometimes you'll allow the man to lead and you lead from behind. Just by me saying I will sign no matter what and not demanding what I want to put in a prenup, Bilal offered to put it in anyway.
Interesting. Is that what's happening? That she is saying the way to get control is to lead from behind. You say you're submissive, you act submissive, you give them what they want, like that of a child, Anyway, so she's saying that. I mean, that's still sad that someone would have to do that. You wouldn't be able to talk directly to, you'd have to trick someone, essentially lie to them. Now, taste of his own medicine, I suppose, from the prank, but at least that says she knows there's something amiss and she's trying to figure out a way to make it work. But my goodness, I mean, I wonder why she is so desperate to make this work. Does she have no other options? Is there something about this relationship that we don't know about that makes it so much more special to her? We could imagine that being true. We only see a little bit of the relationship, but it just makes me wonder where she came from, what road she's been down to possibly make her feel like she has to resort to desperate measures and has to put up with things that she doesn't like in order to have a family, in order to have a partner.
And in my mind, I look at it as, him being the head and I'm the neck. So allow him to lead. There's still going to be a way that I'm going to be in control. I just want something that belongs to me. And that's all I was basically trying to say. And I feel like I didn't know how to say it.
I understand.
On my end too.
I understand.
She just wants one thing that belongs to her. Instead of, let's share in all of our things together equally. Instead of, I feel like I have nothing and I'm fighting for something and wasn't, a tiny thing and wasn't getting it. So I have to completely give up everything and hope that he will give me that one thing.
I would like to have a child before 40.
They can try to have children, and they may take time for them to have children.
Will not hold your account when it comes to that. That is like something beyond our control. But I just want you to have that same eagerness to have a child.
Yeah, I guess so.
I guess so. Yeah, I'm glad they're talking about it, but this is just not usually the kind of style of conversation that you're enthusiastic to hear under these circumstances, right? Like the negotiation, the prenup, the, okay, fine, I'll submit to you, but that means you have to have a kid with me by the time I'm 40. I guess, like, it just sounds like they're lawyers negotiating over something when, instead of partners working together. Now, if he doesn't want to have a kid, totally fine. Just be straight up from the beginning and say, yeah, I'm not feeling it, honestly, and then let her go. But honestly, would she leave? I don't know. I don't think so. Given her track record, I think she would figure out some way to make it work in her mind. I think she would say, well, he'll come around eventually, that kind of thing.
I never seen that one.
I need an answer. I don't want to, like, we are days away from getting married, Bilal.
Yeah.
Guess so is not.
And of course, and I'm sure a lot of you are thinking this, and I am too, and have been from the beginning, that women, I don't know about Trinidad, but I know in my culture, are socialized from an early age to submit, to not speak up for themselves, to not be bossy, to not be a B word, to be nice and accommodating and agreeable, and to negotiate, to not pressure. This is a well-known fact in science, that when we study gender and assertiveness, for example, in the workplace, that one, superiors, bosses, when they're handing out promotions and raises, are discriminatory in general when it comes to gender, particularly in some industries. And women have been taught from an early age and throughout different employment experiences that they don't deserve to ask for a raise. They don't deserve to ask for a promotion. I've talked with many clients, but I think more relevantly, I've talked with a lot of supervisees, trainees, students of mine who are at the beginning of their career. You know, to be a therapist, there's a lot of self-promotion you have to do, potentially. You have to work your way up the ladder, so to speak. And if you don't, you'll be sometimes stuck in a job that's really high pressure, a lot of work, a lot of hours, and not that much pay. And of course, you have your student loans to pay off. So I will work with these trainees, women, and really try to help them to break that. Because as a mentor, I consider it my job to help them to empower themselves so that they can feel entitled to what they're entitled to. A regular career path that is commensurate with their education level, their skill level, their hard work. I wonder if she's not at work, but I wonder if she has been indoctrinated into that cult of gender and believes the hype that she has to plead for just human rights.
An answer. It's either yes or no.
That you want to have a child before you turn 40.
Yeah. But it's just like we are on the same page when it comes to having children. And I would like to see it in writing as well, if that's okay.
And I've been a broken record with this, is that if you need, in the beginning of a marriage, to have things like this in writing, if that's your impulse and you state that, you should have the biggest red flag regarding this relationship and say, clearly I don't trust this person. Clearly we don't know each other well enough. We don't have enough time together. I don't know this person. You know, like with my wife, we don't have a prenup. We've never written things down along these lines. We've never even had this style of conversation. We just talk it out and we work it out. We work together, and we might get in an argument, or we might get a little heated. I mean, not incredibly, but you know, there might be some like, hey, well, I want this, and how come you don't want that? You know, but you work it out. You work together. You come to some kind of agree to disagree, or, well, okay, you really want this, so okay, I'm not into it, but okay. Now, with kids, of course, you would hope that there would be a lot of agreement on that, because it requires both people to be heavily invested and deal with a lot of inconveniences. There should be that internal motivation that motivates the person to overcome those barriers and those speed bumps to make it all worth it. So, yeah, but just like I wanted in writing And again, I've said this before, what if he doesn't deliver, so to speak? You take him to court? Because I don't think this is upholdable. I don't think it's not binding, right? There's no legal consequence to this. So, I mean, maybe there is, if a lawyer could tell me otherwise, I don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty, but there's a chance, and I've seen it before, where they do all this that has this huge red flag and a number of smaller red flags. They get married, they muddle their way through life, and they're happy relatively. It's possible. I could see that. You know, she might 3 years from now, 5 years from now say, oh, there he is doing that thing again. I don't like it, but he has these other redeeming qualities that they didn't edit the show to show us. You know, maybe that'll happen.
I can agree to that.
Yeah.
The fact that Shaeeda's willing to sign this agreement, even though she necessarily didn't want to, I mean, she's willing to compromise, and I'm definitely willing to compromise as well. So whatever she wants to put in there.
All right, well, I want to thank everyone for liking my videos, if you've ever done that before, or voting one way or the other, honestly, because, you know, I like to know what people think, and my self-esteem depends on it to some extent. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.